Hey team, Frank with Bath Wizard here about to do some training with some new members of our sales team. This is Beth. We got Zach. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to get into the inspection and how to do a proper inspection on a shower area. So let me ask you guys a question. What is the goal for the inspection?
Create urgency.
Create urgency. What else?
Identify a problem that has to be solved today.
Identify a problem that has to be solved today, right? So the first thing that you're going to do whenever you walk into the bathroom is you're going to walk in, they've taken you to the bathroom that you're looking at, and you're going to be like, oh, okay. I see why you had decided to have us out today, right? You're walking over here. Now keep in mind, silence is key here, right? Because silence builds suspense. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to walk over here. Mind you, you've got your tools, right? You've got your moisture meter, you've got your magnifying glass, flashlight, clipboard with the items on it. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to walk over here with your bag. You're going to sit your bag down next to the bathing area because it's got to have your tools in it, right? And you're going to go specifically, start just kind of looking at the bathroom. You're like stepping into it. Turn the water on and off to check the drain flow. Mind you, you've got your clipboard in your hand at this point. You're circling the things that are at the bottom of the sheet. You're checking things, you're looking at the grout, you're inspecting for different things and circling stuff. So the first thing that you're doing is just looking, right? Then you're going to look over at the customer and you're going to say, you guys are using this thing? Why might we be saying that? What seed are we planting? When we say, are you guys still using this thing? So now they're wondering why you just said that. They're like, what did he see that we haven't seen? Or they're going to say, unfortunately, yes. Right? So you're starting to get them to tell themselves that what they have is a problem, right? So then what you do from there after you do that, you're like, okay, I need to use, first thing we're going to do is we're going to check for moisture, okay? So we're going to take this, we're going to put it up on the walls to check for the moisture levels on different sides. Check, basically what you're looking for is possible water damage. The percentages will go up on your meter as the possible water damage goes up. That's generally about a 3 to 5 minute thing because you want to make sure you're checking just about every spot in the entire shower. Make sense? Then, you're going to say, now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the reason why we do the moisture test is because we want to make sure that there's not any water damage, or if there is, we want to be prepared for it. That's not going to make a significant impact on your cost, but we got to know what we're getting ourselves into because unfortunately, that's reality, right? Reality is whenever you have things like tile or really anything that allows excessive water penetration, water built the Grand Canyon, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, it's probably making its way behind there if you don't have the proper water management system, right? The next thing that I'm going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to look for specific mold spores in the grout, right? So you're looking for the mold spores in the grout. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the next thing we do is we like to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what we're up against from a environmental perspective. Is there mold here? Could that be possibly having negative implications on your health? Are some of these challenges leading to even further challenges that maybe you're not aware of because you don't see what we can see? Does that make sense? The third thing that we're going to do, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and mind you guys, whenever you're asking these questions, it should turn into a 5 to 7 minute conversation after each one, right? Like you want to dig deeper to understand, so have you had excessive allergies? Have you had some of these challenges that maybe you weren't able to chalk up to what it is, right? Then you're going to take your black light and say, now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what do you use to clean this bathroom? Well, we use 409. We use this. We use that. Gotcha. Let me take a look. So what you're doing is, and on this one you're not going to see anything, But what you're doing is you're looking for indications of chemicals, right? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I know you don't use chemicals, but the people before you that did, and I want to show you here that they're still here. Yes, it's been cleaned and wiped, but it didn't all come off. And the reason why that's important, Mrs. Jones, is when you're bathing and the water is splashing onto these chemicals and you're in the shower, after it splashes off the wall and the chemicals, where's it landing? On your body. And I think you guys would all agree that when you read the label on the back of the cleaner, when it tells you that if it touches your skin to reach out to a care provider, there's a reason for that. Right? Does this all make sense? So that's the purpose of the black light. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I don't know about you, but based on kind of the things that we're looking at here, I think you and I could both agree this has to be changed, right? I mean, whether you buy from me or not, this has got to change. Fair? Does that make sense, guys? Do you see how you utilize the tools? Also, when you circle these things, you want to talk about each and every one. Your guys' homework today is going to be looking up different indications of these different things on YouTube and watching videos around it. And actually, there's some really good stuff. You know, just to further your research and understand exactly what you're talking about, because it's good to know what you're talking about, right? So it's good to get on YouTube and look up, possible mold implications in a shower. What kind of health issues does mold being in a shower create? Because you got to be an expert in your craft. You got to be an expert in what you do, and you got to be an expert in what you know. That's just what it is, right? So then, from there, what you're going to do is, after they confirm that it has to be changed, what would be a follow-up question?
How soon do you want this to change to happen?
So, how about this? What ideas do you have? Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what were you thinking? Now, you may have noticed, this is why I have the sample pack. Sample pack goes in the bathroom with you, right? Well, Frank, we were thinking about doing one of them fiberglass inserts. Sorry, guys, about the holding this incorrectly. This thing's heavy.
Nice little arm workout.
Fiberglass, interesting. Could be a good option, but I'm not sure if it's the best option. Let's talk about it. So this is a fiberglass system, okay? As you can see here, a fiberglass system is basically chemically bonded microfibers that are bonded together to create a structured application. Here's the problem with that. When it's connected with fibers, what can fibers do? They can disconnect. They can break apart. When they are not structurally chemically bonded together, when fibers are bonded together by separate chemicals and it's not all in the same integration, that means that it has a higher probability of being damaged or being broken. Have you ever noticed that people with fiberglass tubs and fiberglass shower pans, when you scrub the shower, or like over time if you scrub it, you'll notice it'll hold dirt, it'll stain. The reason for that is because when you get through that top layer, you're penetrating into the fibers, and then the dirt's staying there. I would never, ever want to take a bath in somebody else's bathtub that I saw stains that was fiberglass. That's disgusting. And it's not their fault, right? They didn't know why they ended up what they ended up with, but I wouldn't. That's just not a smart decision, because that dirt's going to get on you, right? Like, that's on your feet. That's how you get athlete's foot. That's how you get all the other, nasty things that come along. You don't know the person that owned your house before you, what they had going on. It's not really your job to know, but it is your job to prevent, possible problems. Does that make sense, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? What other ideas do you have? Tile? Is that kind of another idea that you had? Tile could be a good option. It does work for some people, but I'm not sure it's the best option for you. You said earlier that longevity and durability was important to you. You had kind of mentioned after I showed you the mold spores and the grout that perhaps mold was a concern of yours. As I said, could be a good option, maybe not the best, and here's why. If you had the perfect person laying tile, could they create a decent project? Yes. However, all the little nuances that go into building the perfect tile shower bathroom are still only going to get it to 80% effective. You're still not going to get to 99% water barrier penetration applicable. You're just not with tile. Because of grout, it's sand-based. Even when you use the, I actually learned this, even when you use the acrylic-based grout, what actually happens is the grout separates from the tile because it's got a rubbery consistency to it, right? So that stays intact whenever the home shifts and settles, but the separation between the acrylic grout and the tile do not, right? So there's one reason. The second reason is whenever you get into the waterproofing of it, sure, if you had an expert, a person that was an expert in water management doing that, perhaps he would have some good ideas, but most people, 90% of the market that installs tile, aren't taking these things into consideration. They're selling you on the pizzazz and the design, and they're excited about that, and that is good, right? But what they're not taking into consideration is the application on the back side of the wall that allows penetration, which leads to structural damages because of mold and wood rot and things of such nature. So do you think tile would be the best option for this bathroom? I don't. What do you think?
Probably not.
Probably not. What other ideas do you have?
What if we just resurfaced it?
Great idea. Could be a good option. Not sure if it's the best. In fact, we actually do resurfacing here. But you said earlier that you planned on staying in this home for a long time. I don't know if you saved up all your hard-earned money just to, oh man, when I get enough money saved up, I'm going to resurface this existing bath and this existing bathtub, right? I'm not sure if that's why you did, kind of what your thinking was. Perhaps it could be a good option. Does have a pretty heavy, chemical application. Let me ask you this. Do you want good? And I don't mean from a price perspective. I mean purely from a durability and longevity perspective. Do you want something that would work, or do you want something that is good?
Do you have to pick one?
I mean, most people would say, I want something that's good. I don't really want to settle for second best when it comes to dealing with something that built the Grand Canyon, right? When it comes to chemicals and water, I probably want the best. Maybe not so much design. Maybe that's not important, but I do want to make sure this water is managed properly in a way that doesn't lead to further house complications and health complications. Make sense? So let me ask you this. Do you guys have any other ideas? Most homeowners are going to say, that's really kind of what we were thinking. What do you think? At that point, this is another key agreement. Mrs. Jones, Bath Wizard would love the opportunity to earn your business. That's a key agreement, right? Because now you've just stomped on all the alternative solutions. Make sense? Questions? All right, guys, enjoy.